Welcome.
We have been trained from kindergarten through high school and even college how to work for somebody else.
Presented to you by...
Some people sit through 25, 30, 40 years of a job that they hate because they don't know another way out. All right, well, welcome to The Exodus, sponsored by The Difference. I almost said The Difference, sponsored by, man, that's not good. Of Holiday Brain. We're excited to be here today. We're excited to take the final episode of December. First of all, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all of the season's greetings. I know it's been quite a crazy year for everyone. And in some capacities, I think we're excited to get that year over with. Hopefully, for many people, they think, well, 2021 will be better. Well, I hope so. But what we want to focus on, and one of the things that we talk so strongly about here on The Exodus, is just being able to take things into your own hands. You know, we talk about, breaking free of the things that really enslave us in some sense, whether it be the corporate world, putting all of our eggs in the job basket where we're being, told, here's how much you're worth. Here's when you have to do this. Here's where you have to show up. And, for so many people, including ourselves, and so many other shows really here at The Difference, that's something that we have just basically given a big stiff arm to. We've decided that, we want to take things into our own hands, that we want to, control our destiny as best we can. And through hard work and just understanding the business world, we've been able to do that. And so we just want to share that with you guys and open the floor up for discussion, what it takes to do those types of things, whether it be, working in the field that we're in, or just anything that makes you excited, that fuels your passions, that allows you to do whatever it is that makes you just come alive and thrive. And for most people, it's not a 9-to-5, 30-year endeavor working for somebody else. I think that's a good, start when you're maybe 15, 16 years old, understanding what that looks like, but then being able to transition or exodus out of that, what has really become the way that our society operates, unfortunately, for so many people. And so, as every week, first of all, I want to bring on Lyndon Wilson, who has been really instrumental just creating The Difference. And then my co-host for The Exodus, Mr. Blake Timmons, a longtime friend of, I guess, probably 28 years now, right? Because we've been saying 27 years for a long time.
For 27 years?
Yeah, I think it's probably longer. So maybe Blake and I don't know when we started counting. Was it like the first time you beat me at YMCA basketball in second grade, or was it when you started coming to church with us in fifth grade?
I don't know. I think you wanted to be my friend before I wanted to be your friend, so I think you started the count early.
Well, that's,
I think you start from third grade. I probably start from like fifth or sixth grade.
Sorry, Lena, we're having some technical difficulties with Blake. I think we're going to have to cut him out of the show. No, I'm just kidding. But first of all, we are super excited to just, have this, our second show here in December. And like I mentioned earlier, wishing everybody the merriest of Christmases. I know for a lot of people, it's a different experience. I was just informed that we're doing a Zoom Christmas with part of my family today. Not today, but, when we have our Christmas, which is disappointing, obviously. But, it's for the best for just people just not sure, right? All kinds of information flowing around. And there's a lot of things that we cannot control. But I think, Blake, and tell me if you agree, one of the things that we really harp on here is taking control of the things that you can control. And that is, putting your financial destiny, your family legacy as much into your own hands and your own work ethic as possible. And so we talk about that a lot. Last time we talked, I know, Blake, you had a scheduling conflict, and Lyndon and I just, did you notice how well the show went last time, Lyndon, when Blake wasn't here?
It was awesome. We had like 1 million views and
1 million views. Most of it was like
the work.
we just realized that we're really, the weight that we're carrying it starts with a B and last name starts with a T. So I've carried Blake for a long time, though. It's okay.
Wow. Well, y'all can duke that out later on. No, but so it's unfortunate because when we were preparing for last week's show or last couple weeks ago, one of the things that Blake wanted to talk about that unfortunately had a scheduling conflict is, 5 things that entrepreneurs need to give up, right? If you want to make that shift into the business world, things that you need to give up. And we spent a good hour, I think a little over an hour, Lyndon, talking about those.
Yeah.
We have a little bit shorter show today, about 45 minutes. So we're not going to review them in great detail, but I just want to list them. Go back and listen to that show. But today, the majority of our time we want to spend talking about, we want to flip that. Okay, if you're giving up these things, what are the 5 things that an entrepreneur needs to fight for, right? So let's review the give up. So number 1, staying in your comfort zone, right? Staying in your comfort zone. Anytime you do something outside the box, maybe you start, a business on your own, you quit your job, you do whatever. I mean, I'm not telling you to, think through everything you do, obviously. There's going to be some things that are not comfortable, right? There's going to be some things that you just don't know. And sometimes you have to be uncomfortable to grow. In fact, no matter what you're doing, whether you're talking about your faith, or you're talking about your personal development, being uncomfortable is a way that you it's a barometer towards where you are. It helps you determine what areas of my life, from any category that you're discussing, do I need to dive into? Do I need to examine in greater detail? So not being willing to jump out of that comfort zone is really going to limit your growth there. Number 2, being a victim. We live in a society where victimhood is popular. Well, I can't do this because of this. My heritage, my family, my background, my income level, all of these things. And yet so many successful people have overcome seemingly impossible odds to become successful in this country. In fact, when you think of the major entrepreneurs that would come to your mind, like the Gates, the Jobs, even further back, Carnegie, Rockefeller, they did not come from great means. They did not come from a ton of resources, but they had ideas. They said, hell or high water, we're going to make this happen, to what was mostly what some people would consider immeasurable odds, right? You couldn't do it. Along with that comes making excuses. So if you're a victim, it allows you to make excuses. That's number 3. This is why I can't do this. Life's hard. Blake and I, we talk all the time. When you're doing something, when you're going into business for yourself and working in a business, Lyndon, you can probably speak to this. You have, it's almost like things find you. Negative things find you. You have all kinds of reasons to quit. Oh, this isn't for me. You face opposition. Like, you have to expect to have opposition in anything you do, because we have it in our jobs, right? But since the paycheck keeps coming, we just kind of, go to the watering trough every day and just kind of settle for less, even though we make excuses all the time, but then we don't want to do anything about it. Number 4, a desire to appear normal.
Can I just say something
please.
on that? I always say any movement towards, and we share our faith sometimes on this show, any movement towards freedom and life and greatness will always be opposed. And so that's why it's so easy to slip into the victim mentality. It's so easy to be negative. Why is it so much easier to be negative than it is to be positive? Everyone agrees that it's better to be positive, but there's always going to be opposition there. Whatever, I believe in spiritual warfare. I believe it's the enemy, but just people in this world, the way that people have been wired in this world, most people are going to oppose you when you're going for it, right? Because their dreams got assaulted a long time ago, and now they don't really, there's some jealousy involved. They want to, what's the deal we say about lobsters, Nathan, where, 2 lobsters are in a box, and as soon as one is trying to get up to the top, the other lobster is going to pull them back down. Mm-hmm. One lobster in there, that one lobster would be free.
See, Blake's facing opposition right now.
Yes, he is facing opposition. Hey, I think that kid wants some camera time. You need to set him up there, let everybody get it. I mean, this is his Hollywood debut right here. What's up, buddy?
This is
See, that's what he wanted. He just needed some FaceTime. That's it.
Want some attention, huh? You got graham crackers all over his face.
So number 5, great point, Blake. Number 5, the hope of gaining everyone's approval. And it's interesting. These all kind of 5 build on one another. Talking about the desire to appear normal. Well, normal is acceptable, right? And being negative is acceptable, especially in 2020. We've seen all the funny memes about 2020. In fact, our relatives gave us a ornament that has the Grinch on it holding toilet paper, and it says 2020 stink, stank, stunk, which is really funny. It's funny. It's a funny ornament. But what happens is, I think so many people like on Facebook and whatnot, just it's almost like they've written off a whole year because it's been difficult. Like I've learned so much this year personally. We've grown, our company's grown. Obviously our podcast has grown. The difference has grown. There's a lot of things to be excited about, but you have to find them. And you can't, when you are overly positive, and we talked about this last night in we had an office meeting, Blake and I were on. Sometimes when you're super positive, people think you're weird. It's like status quo to just be ho-hum, negative, defeated. 2020 sucks. It's stupid. Yeah, it's not the greatest year we've probably had. That's fair.
How sad is that the status quo is being negative? When you're positive, you're
the weird guy. Yeah. It's insane.
Misery loves company, though.
Exactly. Exactly.
But with all this stuff, people can, there is always tremendous opportunity in any difficulty you face, and that's where the separation comes, right? We have a list of a lot of different businesses that absolutely exploded during what was hard times for everybody else, right? I forget what that list is, but a lot of it was in 2008. But anytime there's just something, the rest of the world is just sitting around there and just, oh my God.
Airbnb was one of them, by the way.
Airbnb, maybe Venmo,
I think Instagram started getting big in 2008 as well.
But everyone else is sitting around just licking their wounds, woe is me. And other people have been like, man, what a great opportunity. Everyone has the ability to have that mindset. You just have to look for, and not just the silver lining, not just, being positive, but there are literally like physical, like tangible ways to go and capitalize on the opportunity that come with the difficulty.
Well, Blake, you and Nathan, you too, I'm going to include you, but when we talk football and we talk sports a lot, and Blake as a player, do you remember what your thought process was when you looked across the line of scrimmage and you saw the guy with his hands on his knees or his hands on his hips? Right.
Yeah, I got him. Like
you at that point, you had an opportunity to beat him because absolutely. he was surrendering to himself, not necessarily to you. He hadn't acknowledged that to you, but to himself, he was surrendering. He was tired. He was worn out. He was discouraged, and that energized you. And I think that is the same principle that we can have in business. When these things like COVID happened in 2008, when the market crashed, I saw people rise up while other people had their hands on their knees going, oh my God, poor, pitiful me. What am I going to do? And others are out. One is the competition just reduced itself. Mm-hmm. Because while you're curling up in bed waiting for COVID to go away, somebody out there is figuring out how to create a business.
Well, just look at the companies that switch their whole factories to making PPE. Like, I mean, even all these companies that, the whole mask thing is 50-50 on everybody's side, but they, now you have personalized masks. I mean, that's the beauty of capitalism, is that smart people will take an opportunity to turn a frown upside down, as they say,
Well, I mean, you have to, an entrepreneur looks for a need. How do I fulfill a need? And do you know what one of the number one stocking stuffers are going to be this year?
I don't know, masks.
Unbelievable. Yeah, well, probably both. You probably get
the home do-it-yourself COVID test.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love to see how much money is in all the masks. Keep that going as long as possible.
But here's the thing, and it's some people will say, well, that's great for those people. Well, when you totally like the My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell. You know, they make pillows and sheets and towels, but then he started making masks. Well, you have all those people that are guaranteed jobs that, you know, he didn't have to lay people off, where a lot of people are getting laid off. So it's not just the business owner, it's the, you know, all business owners, when you grow and expand, that's what people, you know, part of being negative, oh, I could never do that. They're just in it for the money. No, business owners create job and they create opportunity.
Well, and I think if you looked at that, I wonder if Mike Lindell actually created a larger profit than he did before he converted, or if he just did that to keep his staff employed and keep payroll going. I mean, I think a lot of people, if you look at it, a lot of Mike Lindell probably has a bank account so significant that he didn't have to do anything for the last 8 or 9 months.
Yeah.
But why did he do it? Why did he do it? It wasn't just to continue to make more money. I mean, I'm sure if he did, he's not sad about that. But
there
I
was
bet
a need.
that he
definitely a need, obviously.
Well, there was a need, but there was a need for his employees to have work.
Right.
I mean, for one, he could have taken the PPP loan, which he might have. I don't know if he did that or not, and just sent everybody home and paid everybody out of tax dollars. Or he can adapt and create another opportunity that keeps these people that have the availability to keep their jobs and keep the payroll going.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what's great about that.
And, you know, that is what's great about that. And one of the reasons that I know that I wanted to become an entrepreneur was that it gives you a greater opportunity to make an impact, right? If he's already done extremely well as an entrepreneur, and now maybe he sees this, you know, it's not all about money. He saw a tremendous opportunity to help people out through this, and he's been, you know, blessed financially with that opportunity, but he's in a position to make a decision that can affect millions of people and help millions of people. And that's one of the other great benefits of being able to own your own company.
Yep.
So if we talk about, okay, so these are things that are holding us back, right? If you want to be an entrepreneur, these are the mindsets that you have to break through and essentially give up. And, you know, for us, 2020 has been a hard year. There's no doubt about it. I think Blake and I, we've talked about this just recently, just ourselves, about different challenges and things you go through as you're growing and building. And I mean, not just to mention, not as entrepreneurs solely, but just obviously the hardships that 2020 brought. Okay. So how do you flip that? Okay. So these are the things you've got to give up. Why are we giving them up? We're giving them up because we're fighting for something. And the obstacles that you face are you have a far greater chance of being able to fight through it, to not be a victim, to not be afraid of being abnormal, to not be afraid of you know, what other people will say. If you know why, if you know your why, if you know why you're doing what you're doing and what you've got to do to get there. Okay. So number one, what entrepreneurs need to fight for. Number one, we want to control our own destiny. That's the whole reason we step out of the corporate world. We want to control our own destiny. Blake, as you used to work with Nike, obviously big company, very successful. Talk about some of the things that you know, because you went from Nike to, obviously you've been coaching for 10 or 12 years now. There wasn't a straight transition from Nike to the fire department, but just talk about the limitations, even when you're working for a huge company like Nike, the limitations that you have that I think maybe even played into your eventual desire to have your own business. In fact, you helped open the credit repair company before you sold it off, before we, you know, got into finance and what we're doing now. So I think we've talked before that lack of control is what pushed you into, I got to fight for this. Tell me, walk us through kind of that mindset and that shift.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, during that time, I had a lot of free swag and a lot of shoes, and, you know, my friends at that point thought, oh, that was cool and everything. But
I personally was pretty excited that you worked for Nike at that time. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. But when I was thinking about the long term, obviously I was a lot younger back then. And so thinking about the long term, nobody in Nike was making any, I mean, you could become the, you know, senior North American senior marketing director. You have some fancy big title, and you might be cracking six figures, but the draw was you got to hang out with all these famous athletes and you got to have all this free stuff. Like no one was becoming financially independent. You're working for Nike. It was more just the draw of the lifestyle. And so I started thinking about, what do I really want? Do I want, what are people going to say about me at my funeral? That I had a lot of shoes, like hot dog. But the other thing was, if I wanted to continue to move up the corporate ladder per se in Nike, I was going to have to move to Portland, Oregon. And I mean, good God, who wants to live in Portland, Oregon? It wasn't, and I'm somewhat joking if you live in Portland and you're listening to the show, but it's beautiful up there. I visited many, many times. I just, didn't always align.
Not the most peaceful area of the country right now.
Right now, yeah. It's a beautiful area. People up there would say, why should I move to Dallas? It's like a concrete, jungle. And I would say the people. I ran into a whole lot of people up there that were more interested in being green than they were being nice to people. And I'm not trying to bash on Portland. What I'm getting to is, if I wanted to be successful, is that having control of my life, that I have to move thousands of miles away in order to be successful? I didn't want that. I wanted to plant roots down somewhere, right? I've been involved with Dallas Christian in some way for 18 years now. I got, something special there with the football program. I don't want to just up and leave that because I got to chase this contract, uproot my family, uproot my kids from school. Like I knew right there that is not what I wanted. And that's what you have anytime you have a corporate job. It's always been amazing to me. It'll be a 45-year-old man, 50-year-old man he's successful. He's making, $200,000 a year. And now he's got to move across the country. Like, you got to completely change your entire family's destiny because you need that paycheck. Like, it's a complete lack of control over your life. And I just knew that's not what I wanted. I wanted freedom, right? That's what we're talking about on this show. We're Israelites leaving Egypt, moving towards the promised land. We're looking for freedom and being able to control our own life, being able to stand up for what we believe in. Certain conversations, I could not talk about anything at Nike that had anything to do with religion or spirituality, politics. Maybe that's, maybe they do talk about politics now. I don't know. But it was just, you had chains on, right? And this is not specific to Nike. Nike was great to me during that time. It's just all of corporate America, basically, when you're looking at that.
So going right along with that, number two, so controlling your own destiny, part of controlling your own destiny is signing your own paycheck. Well, with that, one of the things, if we've talked about the cash flow quadrant before, one of the things when you step into that self-employed category, we like the idea of controlling our own destiny, but then we realize that structure that is in place in a job, we have to basically duplicate that in our own lives. So we have to be our own boss. We have to, realize that we are essentially working for ourselves, and we have to work from moving from just being self-employed to having a business system in place that's going to continue to pay us. But it's that concept of controlling our own destiny, and then number two, signing your own paycheck. Basically, we hear a lot about in the corporate world. Oh, I'm in sales, unlimited income. And Blake and I have numerous stories where people have been so successful in a sales job that all of a sudden they have broken a barrier of where the company kind of had them pegged at. Like, you have unlimited income until you are making more money than the CEO or do more money than the CEO. And even as those salespeople, you have quotas. Your territory might change if you're too successful, because the illusion of unlimited security and writing your own paycheck is great until you still have they still have some sort of a hook in you, and it's with your time, it's with your region, whatever your sales region is, whatever the case may be. So having that true ability to control your destiny and really unlimited income, signing your own paycheck, with the full detail of what I think everyone hopes that means is something that we should be fighting for, right? Lyndon, so tell me, you've obviously had a couple different businesses. You've obviously done the corporate world. Where do you see the challenge towards fighting for signing your own paycheck, but is it worth it compared to being held back in the corporate setting where someone else is controlling your time and money?
Well, I can start with the story that I've shared on this show and with you guys many, many times. My mother worked in corporate world for 19 and a half years. She was a corporate nurse. She had climbed the seniority ladder and was making good money. And 6 months before full retirement, she was laid off, simply laid off to avoid the company from having to pay full retirement. And also because now they could hire a nurse right out of school and pay her significantly less than they were paying my mother. Now, I don't begrudge the corporation for doing that. That's what they have to do in order to do what they have to do. But that, as we said before, my mother was not in control of her own destiny. And in reality, she wasn't in control of her paycheck like she thought she was going to be. And that was my first introduction and rude awakening to the fact that I didn't have control over my destiny or my paycheck. And it was at that point I decided that I was going to work for myself. Number one, I know I can't fire myself because I just won't do it. I am, whether I'm the best or worst employee I will ever have, I've always got a job. My paycheck is dependent upon me. The better that I do, the more I get rewarded. And so there's a huge incentive there. And then you start to realize all the things that you can do to make that thing happen, to give a better program, a better service, a better product, or whatever it may be. Do I always make as much money as I want to? No. But here's the thing about it. If you're honest with yourself, I'm going to give two scenarios here. If I'm honest with myself when I'm not making the money I want to make, I can look back and realize it's because I'm not doing what I need to do. Bottom line, I'm not doing enough, or I'm not doing it as well as I need to do it. Contrast that with corporate world. I can do the best that I can do, and I can do all and that does not mean I'm going to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't. Now I can do bad at corporate and be out of a job as well. So the controlling the destiny does control the paycheck. It really does. That there's a big
correlation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nathan. Big correlation there to the fact that I have control of my own destiny means that I can make the adjustments in my paycheck. Every new client I get is a raise. I can give myself a raise every day. In some corporations, you don't get a raise every 2 years. And then it's going to be, I remember, and I don't know if this is dating me or not, but I remember hearing my aunts and my uncles and people in my family excited about a quarter of an hour raise, 25 cents an hour. Now, back then, it did go a little bit further than it goes now, but still, I'm like, a quarter an hour, really? The other thing that I will share with you guys, and I don't want to take up too much time. When I was in college, I worked in construction, and I was blown away at the guys out there that could not wait till they exceeded the 40-hour work week and started getting paid time and a half. Because in my mind, I'm like, if they can pay you this much time at time and a half, why can't they pay you this much at your regular time? Do you become more valuable after you hit 40 hours a week? Are you more skilled after 40 hours a week? Are you more educated on what you're doing after 40 hours a week? How can they afford to pay you more after 40 hours than they can afford to pay you during the 40? Never made sense to me. Now, I'm a capitalist. I get it. If you are the owner of that company, you're gonna pay what you think they're willing to accept. Well, as an entrepreneur, I don't have to worry about overtime. I work a lot of overtime, but I get paid the same for overtime as I do for regular time, which is what I think I'm worth.
Yeah. In fact, and here's the thing, you'll probably, for a long period of time, 3, 5, 6, heck, even if it's 10 years and you're working 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week, let's say. But all of that work, whatever you're growing and building and investing in, all of that comes back to you.
Right.
Now, yeah, you may put in a lot of work up front and you don't have that weekly paycheck that's nice, depending on whatever you're doing. Like, you start a business from the ground up. A lot of times they don't make a profit till the third year, even if they're ran well. But how much profit are you making on your 5, 6, 7, 10, 50, 3 or 4 generations later? All of that hard work is rewarded, right? Whereas your point, Lyndon, not having, you can put in as much effort as you want, and yeah, you may get a raise, you may get a promotion, you might get they'll recognize you in the team huddle in the morning, but at the end of the day, your efforts, your paycheck never increases at the same ratio as your efforts do in the corporate world. And again,
every hour that you work for someone else is an investment in their future. It's not an investment in yours.
Yeah. And so it's good to, I think, experience that and then experience why you don't want to be that way. Like, to me, society should work where, the first thing you ever do is you go get a job. You work for somebody else for a little while, but then you figure out what they're doing and then you go do it. So that most of our employees are under 30 years old. And then as people learn businesses, they go start their own. And that's, we talked about this early on in our shows. The concept of the corporation wasn't in existence for a long time. And again, we're happy that it is, because all of us invest in corporations and, in stocks and in our retirements and everything. That's fine. But you just got to know the game. You got to know how it works so that you're not surprised, unfortunately, like in your mom's case, where they made a business decision and, she was kind of left high and dry. And so,
and I think that we've mentioned too, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we've mentioned too before in some other shows about mindset. And I think that what you guys are addressing with the Exodus is what is a person that would have an independent mindset over more of a dependent mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Are you dependent on a paycheck, on someone to give you a paycheck? Are you dependent on someone to create a job for you? Are you dependent on someone? Would you rather be dependent on someone creating your schedule, telling you when you need to be somewhere, how long you need to stay there, what you need to do while you're there, and when you can go home? If that is what fits your lifestyle, if that's your mindset, cool. But if you have an independent mindset, and you're going to address some of these on down this list, then I don't see any other option but being an entrepreneur. It is the ultimate in independence and freedom. It doesn't come without challenges. I'm not saying that. It doesn't come without challenges, but here's the thing. We're going to have challenges one way or the other. Every day we get up, we're going to be challenged.
Yeah.
What's that? So what's that? Sorry, Blake. What's that saying? I'm going to paraphrase. Being an employee is hard. Being an entrepreneur is hard. Choose your hard.
Yeah. Well, I'd venture to say that, being an entrepreneur can be 10 times harder than being an employee. You can sit down and waste your day away and make 50, 60 grand. And, you're just kind of filling a spot. Obviously you got to be probably productive at some point, but if you're in marketing, no one's always keeping dibs on your exact numbers. Your job in marketing is to go spend the company's money on stuff. But when you're an entrepreneur, it may be the toughest $50,000 you've ever made in your life, right? But as you build it and continue to go, it may be, the easiest $300,000 you ever made in your life that you never would have came close to touching if you would have stayed employed, and you never would have came close to touching the freedom that you have with it. And I think we're still on number 2 right here, aren't we?
Yeah, we're gonna.
Well, so I'll go ahead and go into number 3 with this. The number 3 is the unrestricted time with loved ones. And I think that this, obviously these are ranked in no particular order. This might be the top for me. Because, it's just so sad the way that, so many, I'd say especially fathers are, missing all their kids' events because, the more money you make, and they may be even really successful, right? But the more money you make in the corporate world, a lot of times the less time that you have. More money doesn't bring more freedom. With more money comes more responsibility, and you're at their beck and call to travel all over the country at any time that they want you to. Hey, man, my son's got a basketball game tonight. And you got a job to do. You got to go do it. As opposed to when you're an entrepreneur, the more money you make, the more it's directly tied to your freedom. If I have a system and I've built this over, it's tough to get off the ground, but I'm 5 years into it, 10 years into it. And I have a system that's going, whether I go to sleep, whether I go on vacation, whether I'm hanging out with my wife or my kids, that is the ultimate freedom and really why we do this. You have the time to be a better father. You have the time to be a better husband. You have the time to never miss one of your kids' events. And I think, I go back to Nathan talks about the corporations used to not exist. I don't think in the 1800s or the early 1900s, somebody like went away to a job all day and hardly ever saw their kids. I mean, they were, the kid was working alongside them on the farm.
Right. They were in the fields on the farm. Right.
And so like, this is something like just in the last, 80, 100 years, it's tragic about how little times parents get to spend actually raising their kid. And a lot of times somebody else is, right? I know that, a lot of times the rich people, they get written off as they have an easy life and they have, they have all this privilege and stuff like that. You know how many rich kids never see their parents any more than the poor kids did because their parents, hired a nanny to raise them. They don't have any relationship with their kids and they have some of the same father or mother issues as the kids that grew up in poverty. Obviously, they probably still rather have it that way. But but because that, they're, they're a lawyer or they're a doctor, or they're somewhere else where they're working all the time and they still never see their parents. And so I don't want that. I would rather make, obviously we still have the opportunity. We truly do have the opportunity to make unlimited income a lot of times as entrepreneurs, but I'd rather make less money and have freedom than make tons more money and be a slave to that job.
Blake, how many places could you work in the corporate world and be on a call, video, whatever it is, like we are right now, and be able to hold your son in your lap while you're doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be frowned upon, right? And now, and now I can just say, screw off. I'm going to do what I want.
I think that people need to recognize that no one realizes what little instant makes an impact on that child's life, right? Yeah. In 10 years, he may look back and look at this video and see himself smiling on camera. And that could, we don't know. And those are things that I think that we forget about. I think that culture and corporate culture has kind of blinded us to those little bitty moments that we don't realize end up being big moments for our children. So
100% agree. Yeah. Yep. And I even say, I've heard a lot of people in business that say, hey, when they're young, go out there and, bust your butt and work hard. They're not going to remember these certain things. But I'm like, screw that. I'm going to remember. Like, these are like fleeting moments. I want to remember it. And, and I don't know how much, I know they start remembering at a certain age. That doesn't mean that like until they're 3 years old, that none of that makes an impact on their life. That's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. So, I want to be around for all the, what do you get? You get a year of them being like at this age, and then they're on to the next stage and the next stage.
Right. Well, and with video now, they have the opportunity to things that they would never remember to go back and see later on in their life. And that's incredible. We live in a great time that they can do that.
Absolutely.
Blake and I, our sons were born a week apart. And even in the 10 months they've been around or live, there's already been so many different changes. Like I remember, how I felt when he was first born. I remember how, Braxton's already walking. I think Oliver should be walking here in the next month or so. He's a little bigger. Takes him longer to.
A little more weight to carry around.
But yeah, if you make a good schedule and you stick to it, you can have the best of both worlds. There probably will be. There's obviously some sacrifices, but I agree with Blake. This whole sacrifice the family for a 5-year period of time, and then just because for the next 20 years you're gonna be able to give them everything. I think you can do both. You might sacrifice a little bit here and there, but you can have all of the above if you plan it out right. And I think that goes into the last. I think the last two are. We got about 5 minutes here. We're we talk too long about different things, but hey, it's because we're passionate about it. The last two kind of go hand in hand. Breaking the cycle of mediocrity, which in turn allows you to do something special with your life. So you hear people talk about, well, I'm the first person to go to college in my family in generations or ever. And that's awesome. But now you can, well, I'm the first person to own my own business. I'm the first person to, get out of the grind of the 9 to 5. I'm the first person to make over $50,000 in my family. There is, if you have a poverty mentality, if you have we can't be successful because of our legacy, because of our past, because who we are, where we're born, who our parents are. You have the opportunity to say, screw that. We're going to do something different. Which people all the time, well, I didn't have a good dad, so I don't know how to be a good dad. Well, screw that. And I did have a fantastic dad, by the way, if anybody knows me, still do. That's stupid. Your situation affects the way you were raised, whatever your circumstances are, certainly has an impact on you, but it does not demand that you propagate and continue that pattern, right? So being an entrepreneur, what you've got to fight for is, we talk about doing something different. Remember, not being normal. Okay, you got to give that up, because being normal is mediocre. Being abnormal, being superior, not in a self-righteous way, but in a the way that I think about myself, the way that I carry myself, that's going to be the thing that changes the legacy for your family for generations to come. And it will not happen unless you're willing to break that cycle. And all the things that we've talked about, the things you've got to give up, the mindset, what it actually means to be in business, all those things come together synergistically to make up what that legacy is going to be. But you've got to say to yourself first, screw this. I'm going to take a different path. I'm going down the road less traveled. And when you do that, that allows you to do something special. Nobody wakes up and says, gosh, I'd like to be ordinary forever. We always look around and we're like, oh gosh, look how much money they have. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? Well, those people probably said the same thing. Most people that have wealth in this country is not generational. Like, in some capacity, there are people in every generation that go from poverty to wealth because they work their butt off to do it. And there's
I think a lot, Nathan, I think a lot of people too get into the corporate job and the corporate routine, and they're promised and they're sold this vision of how great it's going to be, and then you get in there and you start to feel unappreciated. You start to feel like that your talents are not being utilized the way that they need to be utilized. And you somehow settle into the mediocrity that, if I'm not being recognized, I'm just going to show up every day. I'm going to get my check. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to do it well. But you start to be discouraged, I think. And that's a sad part of corporate life when it just becomes such a routine that you're just going through the motions. Because someone else is getting all the recognition and you're not.
And I think a lot of companies, are beginning to put an emphasis on culture and recognition and making people feel valued. And that's great. I mean, that really is helpful. That does help increase the morale, and morale is important in any company. But at the end of the day, getting an award or certificate or even a major raise or a bonus, the limitations are still there, right? So you may feel special. And it's good to feel special. I mean, I'm not going against any of that, but feeling special and taking matters into your own hand to do something special, that's totally different, right? Everybody, we have a mantra that we talk about in our business. Everybody wants to be somebody. Well, what is somebody? Somebody's a person that has, control. And I'm not talking about control outside of, obviously God is in ultimate control, but the things that we have reign over, we can control those things, right?
Right.
And we're able to do that because we've taken the steps and the measures to be able to do that, right? And so special is somebody that has influence. They have the resources to impact and empower and to teach and to train and to revolutionize an industry or someone's life or make someone's make someone's life better. By having wealth is really just influence, time, and the ability to impact people.
Right.
And so, when I say I want to do something special and I'm doing something special, that's what comes to my mind. Blake, wrap us up. We combined 4 and 5 a little bit, breaking the cycle of mediocrity, doing something special with your life. When you hear those, what comes to mind? How do you see those kind of working out in your life?
Well, you talked about helping, making someone feel special, right? We all, it's like everyone you cross paths with, just imagine them having a big sign on their chest that says "Make me feel special." Everyone wants that,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I remember just being in different jobs. Sometimes I feel like you're made to feel special, kind of in order so they can continue to take advantage of you, right? Like I'd rather have.
It's a participation trophy.
Yeah, would you rather have a compliment or a pay raise, right? Or they make you feel like, hey, what you said, Lyndon, 25 cents an hour. And it's just like, and people, they just kind of, but top of the company, they keep their employees in line. Hey, here's your step raise, and here's your, your compliment. And keep on going out there and making me a millionaire, right? Like you said, Lyndon, that's, capitalism, nothing against that guy. But who do you want to be in that picture right there? But
hold on, just real quick. The capitalism, that's the whole point, is you learn a trade, and you do learn a trade by working for someone else. But what happens is we never take the next step,
right?
Which never go and start our own business. We never become entrepreneurs. We get stuck in the apprentice phase, right?
Yeah,
and that's part of the equation, but that's not the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But going back to breaking the cycle of mediocrity and doing something special with your life, what about a job are you ever going to be able to pass on to your kids or your grandkid? It stops right there at that job. Maybe your kid does the same thing that you did or something like that. When you own your own business, that is your shot. Say you just grew up just normal, whether you're poor, middle income, like your shot to change your family's future, to change your family's legacy, to create generational wealth is to own your own business. And so if that's something that is intriguing to you and something maybe you hadn't thought of yet, but you know what, I would like to be the one that changed the course of my family's future forever. And even if it's not just, because of your name or pride, just to be able to say that I took care of my family. We were stuck at this quality of life. And because of me, I was able to take the rest of my family for generations to come to the next quality of life. And I taught them how to, I didn't just, hand them $10 million. I handed them a perpetual money machine that's going to continue to create the money year in and year out because of the hard work that I was able to put in. I would much rather bust my butt. It's going to be harder, but it's going to be worth it if I can do that starting my own business versus staying in a job. So I would just, if some of you people are listening or have thought about this, and, I would encourage you to look into it. We always love having those conversations with people about the ways to put that into practice. But it really is, the freedom is so worth it.
Absolutely. So recap 5 things, just in case you didn't get a chance to write them down. You're probably not taking notes, but that's okay. Number 1, owning your own destiny. We take notes a lot, so I don't know if other people do that. Signing your own paycheck, unrestricted time with loved ones, breaking the cycle of mediocrity, and doing something special with your life. 5 things entrepreneurs will fight for. Hey guys, leave us some comments. If you have anything, feel free to reach out to Blake and I personally on our Facebook page or at The Difference. If you want to be a sponsor of our show, sponsor The Difference, come on, talk about what you do, your entrepreneurial journey, your business. We love to hear other successful business stories, what makes you unique, why you're doing what you're doing, how you got started. In 2021, we're going to be having a lot of guests, a lot of those relationships. We'll see you guys the first Wednesday in January. I don't know the date for that. I should have looked. First Wednesday in January, 11 o'clock. And you guys, seriously, have a safe, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thanks. Great. I guess we started in July, guys. It's been a great first half year of the Exodus and The Difference. I know Lyndon's been really fighting for this for a long time. Great first year, guys. pleasure to be working with you guys. Looking forward to what we have in store for 2021. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. See you guys next year.